want to be able to reach out to these companies and not have, I don't like the term utility, but bring actual use case to not only the company, but then to the community that they're trying to build in Web3. And the fact that you're already doing that, like you're the kind of person, you're the type of project leader that we want to bring to Novus because we want to win together. This is not exactly what you said. This is not about us making it and being better than you. No. If you make it, then we make it. Like I've said that way back when we met in AVP. Like there's room for everyone. And it's onboarding the Web 2 world is where we make it. It's not trying to get ahead in the Web 3. And so like this is a roundabout question, but are you building with Styles P and Ghostface Killa, or as part of your project, or are you working with their project on the side and building that way?
Yeah, so Ghostface is not necessarily in the NFT space yet. He's definitely he called up Dutch and wanted to have a conversation about it, which he's a huge name. And the thing is with Ghostface too from Wu Tang, he's also international, so that's a huge Web 2 to Web 3 presence, which would be great. Style more North American, but also really good too. But he has his own people that have been following for 30 years. But I'm helping them with their project for sure. I'm an advisor on their project. I wanted to make sure that Styles came to market with the proper resources. That he wasn't promised a bunch of bullshit and left, because that's, in my opinion, that's one of a rug pull is not always a rug pull, right? And I think that just to kind of go off topic for one sec, the narrative needs to change. There's a lot of Web 2 businesses that just have shitty business models and fail due to that. And they're not called rug pulls, they're just called failures. And that happens in Web 3 a lot. But the thing is with Web 3 is they always want to label it a rug pull, which is funny in my opinion. It's just the way it works. But that happens to a lot of people that try to come in from Web 2. They have absolutely no idea what they're doing. They talk to somebody that they think is reputable that isn't. They have shitty developers that they hire off of Fiverr, and then all of a sudden their project falls apart and they're labeled a rug pull for it. And that's unfortunate, but it does happen. And I wanted to make sure if Styles is going to make this big shift from Web 2 to Web 3, that not only is he, given the best artist to do his artwork, but he's given the best launch pad. He's given proper advice. He's not fluffed with, oh, we're going to sell out in 30 seconds. Like, I told him, listen, this may be an incredible grind for you. You might have to work harder than you've worked in a long time just because it's a different type of work. You might have to get on a hours and really push the project. And I'm like, that's just the Web3 success. That's just how it works. And so I wanted to be not only real with him, but also let him realize that like Web3 is a different type of culture, and he very much understands that. And the we've had a variety of AMAs with him and a lot of other communities, and a lot of communities really vibe with the knowledge he brings. Stuff that he says, his brain thinks differently. I'll give you an example. He said, if somebody stepped into the rap studio and pretended to rap, I'd G check them. He's like, I'm not coming into Web3 pretending I know Web3. He's like, I'm coming in here with, hey, I have a big Web2 community. I've been successful in Web2 for 30 years, very successful. I grew up with some of the greats. I've done songs with, P. Diddy, Mariah Carey, Jay-Z. I was best friends with Biggie. Like, there's so many people that I know that I could bring into Web3. How do we do it together? How do I get into Web3 and do this successfully? And a lot of people were like, yeah, that's what we want people to do.
Yeah, we even talked about this yesterday a little bit as a group. Just there comes a point, even, and I think when you first started, felt this, and you've been able to overcome it, which I think is awesome. But there comes a point where, like, as a founder, you need to lean on your community because you can only do so much. And at some point, if they're not willing to retweet, if they're not willing to engage outside of your server, you're gonna die. Like, just that's what happens. And like that's what's happened with, I think, in the past couple months, we'll say like 93% of the projects whose floors have just completely died. Yours has gone up, right? And some people are labeling that as rug, but how much of it is a rug by community? And I think that's one of the tough things that these Web 2 brands are struggling to face is how do you continue to build an ongoing community that engages? And we're trying to come up with use cases for these brands to prevent that, because without the community, they're going to continue business as is, but they're not going to grow, they're not going to expand, and they may become, and we throw this around a lot, but they might become like the next AOL, and maybe not even in a Web3 sense, but in like a fashion brand sense, because you're not expanding and you're afraid to jump into that. And that's one of the things that we're trying to look at. And do you have any insight into that? Like, because I
Yeah.
literally saw you do it as a project, and I think it started to happen, and you literally stepped in and said, "This is not happening. We're not going to let it happen." And
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because that's something I think about all the time. I mean, I don't think people understand how much goes into being an NFT founder. And this is just kind of the first thing. I'll jump to a few other things in a second, but the NFT being an NFT founder of a successful project is incredibly difficult because you have for one, a window between you and your investors always where they can say, hey, what's next, and so it's not like a company where a Web 2 company where you have like quarterly reports and you get on a phone call with a bunch of investors and provide insight and they decide to sell or not. The thing is, Web 2 is there is like a wall that provides at least sort of protection for the founder and the investors communication perspective. But with Web 3, it's so different. There's a very easy way of communicating with everybody on the team, and so sometimes I feel like if projects don't execute fast enough, people just go to the next project, and it's unfortunate because I don't think a lot of people understand the complexity that comes in Web 3. The amount of expertise that are in Web 3, the amount of engineers that are in Web 3, they're so swamped and also extremely expensive. They execute so fast, and so that's one thing. The second thing is like one of the things beyond Ape Space is growing Web 3 is the ability uh, to 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 allow our brand to continue to be exposed to a wide variety of NFT investors and communities as well. I think that we're set up in a way that is intriguing to people because, for one, we are deflationary. We throw apes in our community wallet to deflate the collection, and they never see secondary again, which is good. I mean, we do that every so often. But we also have constant exposure and we add new holders pretty much every day. Like even last night, somebody came in and said, hey, I just picked up my first ATS. What do I do? And I was like, yo. And I gave a shout out to the whole community being like, hey, new holder alert, check out who just joined our community, give them a warm welcome, right? Like that's just what we always do. And so part of it is like constant ongoing exposure to the NFT crowd. I think that like if you're not in front of faces all the time, then people are like, okay, well, this project's probably dead. And let me move on to the next one. People are so quick-winded, which is funny in my opinion, but it's just the way the market works. Like until there's more people in and less projects, like realistically, it's just going to continue to happen. And you'll notice now that how many mega spaces are there? I mean, we started like literally a trend of projects that everybody wants to do it now. We've we've grown our platform organically to the point where we consistently pull 500 in a room without any bots. We don't need to bot our spaces to pretend we're bigger than we are. Like we literally are on an organic platform that has been building the platform for 7 months and will continue to build unless NFTs like literally are dead to the point where there's nobody in it anymore. Like it's my passion. It's what I do full time, and it's something that I look forward to twice a week. And so that's definitely that helps. I think we're also in a turbulent market. There's a lot of conditions outside of Web 3 that are sparking some bearish movement, right? I mean, war. There's always a war news headline. It seems inflation going across everything from food to housing. The stock market, declining for the last, 3 consecutive quarters. I mean, it's just it's a
And that
mess.
doesn't even include the regulation cloud that's looming over just about every single country or government.
Yeah, yeah. And so being Canadian, it's difficult for me. It's funny because my lawyer called me literally right before this phone call just to talk about a few things. And so the way I look at it is, I'm glad the SEC has finally stepped in and said, "Yo, Yuga Labs, what are you guys doing?" Because for me as an entrepreneur and founder, I don't want to take risk that like we're looked at as a security, and I want to say, okay, this is what we can do and this is what we can't do, and here's what we can to move around. As a founder, I don't feel comfortable providing, let's call it simple, dividends to people that bought my product, my artwork, because there really isn't any clear regulation. And it's to the point. Listen to this. I had to go to the bank to set up a business account for obviously our business. It's incorporated. We do things properly.
Yeah,
I said crypto. They kicked me out of the bank. I
I
said
believe
crypto
it.
and I got kicked out of the bank. I literally had to go to another bank and I said, I own a digital artwork business. I need to set up a business account. I could not use the word cryptocurrency. It is that stupid. It is that centralized that like it makes it so difficult for somebody like me to get in the space and be successful and actually want to pay my taxes, actually want to contribute to society. Like I want to do things fairly. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't. That's cool. I get that, but I do. I want to contribute to society. I want to pay my fair share of taxes. Why make it difficult for me? You know?
Yeah,
And
we've talked about that at length of how challenging it's going to be for so many projects because they've not set up a business. Like it's a project. Well, it's not a project. You have a business. You're going to have to pay taxes whether you like it or not. And you just have to be prepared for that. And if you're not, you're going to be screwed. Like you have no choice. You're going to have to shut down or go broke. I don't know what they're going to do, but like that's I think we are in the minority of setting up a business here. And in the end, in the long run, it'll benefit us because we're prepared for it. But how many people are willing to, like in the U.S., if you have employees, which there's a lot of projects that are founded in the U.S. If you have mods for hire, that's even if you look at it as a contractor work, like that's still work. You have to pay taxes on that, and there's going to be a huge release or tax of funds in some capacity, and people just aren't looking at it that way.